Welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I am your host, Cameron Honesty. I am not going to be joined by my co-host, Cannon Torres, today. He's dealing with some work issues, so it will just be me and one of our special guests soon to come on the show from the Texas Voice of College Football Network show. So this is a big week for obviously many reasons. Texas A&M is going to take on the Texas Longhorns on Friday night in Darrell K. Texas Memorial Stadium for the first time since 2010. It's been quite the ride for the Aggies this season. Obviously, being 11-0, 7-0 in the SEC, one of the best teams in the country, should probably stay at number 3 in the latest college football playoff rankings that are coming out on Tuesday night. So tonight, I think it's probably 6 or 7 Central Time. I have to look on that. But either way, after defeating Samford 48-0, I get it's Samford. It's an FCS game. A&M had to get past that. They had to show that they still are one of the most consistent teams in the country, no matter the opponent, that they're not going to trip up. They're not going to have moments of weakness where even though they're not playing an SEC program, they're just not going to look like a team that could stumble at any point when things don't go their ways on every snap. Either way, this is a game that will determine. It's not just a rivalry game between two programs that hate each other with a passion, but it's going to determine if A&M is going to make it to the SEC championship game for the first time in program history, which, as we all know, Mike Elko, when he was hired here before the 2024 season, that's been one of his goals. That's a goal of every head coach in the SEC. But mainly, this is just another step in the right direction to turning this program into a consistent contender and a championship contender, because based on NIL, based on everything Texas A&M has achieved this year and everything they've been building behind the scenes, these are the type of steps you need to take. I mean, in order to be considered a blue blood program in the future, which A&M has been chasing for a very, very long time. So right now, I'm going to introduce us, you guys, which you probably already know, to our guest, Matthew Miller. He is from the Texas Voice of College Football Network show. I was actually on their program last night, and we had a fun time there. So how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. It's good to catch up again after last night. I wasn't 100% myself. I was pretty tired after the day and hadn't done my deep dive on Texas yet, so I did that today. It was pretty fun to do. Just looking at all the ins and outs on both sides of the ball, how Arch Manning's been playing, obviously, compared to how Marcel Reed's been playing and his what many consider to be a Heisman season. So yeah, it's a lot to talk about. Hopefully I got you for most of the show. My co-host could not make it today, as I told you pre-show, so it's just you and I for the remainder of the hour. So first question, it's kind of funny because when I was looking back at Texas' schedule, and you start at the beginning of the year where, everybody plays these big time matchups. You go back to LSU during Brian Kelly's now, previous regime. They could never get past, the USCs and others of the world in the first week of the season, where they had to prove they were a big time contender and that they were a CFP contender and that they should be taken seriously once SEC play comes. Texas had that against Ohio State. Ohio State still undefeated, the number 1 team in the country. It was a slogfest of a game. It was Arch Manning's first start. The offensive line really didn't hold up as well. The defense showed off, Texas defense and their pass rush, especially the run defense, has been great all season. The secondary, which we'll get into, hasn't been that great as of late. But still, to this point, it's kind of weird to look at Texas as, talking about them like they have no shot at the CFP, because really their only losses, are to Ohio State. Florida is an eyesore. I get that. Like, they're a 3-win team. They just fired their head coach. It's ugly. But at the same time, playing at Florida is a lot different than playing Florida at home. And A&M did beat them last season in a very, very sloppy game where they dominated in the run game. That was a different Florida team where Graham Mertz at the time was also the quarterback. So it's not the same situation. But I always thought that you're allowed those bad games, but because the SEC is just so stacked with teams a lot with double-digit wins and I guess a better resume, that blowout loss to Georgia really derailed everything they were working towards. But if they win this game and they win it in a dominant fashion, if A&M gets caught sleeping, going on the road, and maybe they're looking towards the postseason, especially after tonight's CFP rankings come out, do you still think they have like an outside shot? And what do you think needs to happen for Texas to actually make the college football playoff if they have a chance?
Yeah, so I've been looking at the standings and everything, and I'm hoping tonight we're ranked 14th or 15th. I think that gives us a pretty good shot because I do believe if Texas beats A&M, I don't even care really what the score is. If they beat them, they'll jump Vanderbilt and Utah regardless if those teams win. Personally, because I don't think Vandy has very many good results. Like if they win versus Tennessee, that's their best win. They won't have any other good wins. They will have good losses. They would have beaten Alabama or lost to Alabama and Texas. Utah's schedule is not very good, and they could definitely lose anyways. They could lose to Kansas. But I think the guarantees for Texas to even have like a puncher's chance in this is Michigan has to lose, Miami has to lose, and then either Oklahoma or Alabama has to lose. I don't think both of them have to lose, but I think either one, and preferably Oklahoma. I think Alabama's with their schedule, it's good enough to where if it's 9-3 Alabama versus 9-3 Texas, I think they have another win or two, especially that Georgia win, where they can say, hey, we have a better resume. So honestly, in a perfect world, you'd want Oklahoma, Miami, and Michigan to lose. If that happens, I think the chance for Texas to make the college football playoff. I don't think it's super high. I definitely think those things can happen, but even if they happen, if let's say everything happens there, I think it's still only like a 50% chance. I think it's a coin flip chance that they make the college football playoff. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I've seen crazier things happen. And it's kind of crazy because Texas at that point, if that does happen, will have 3 top 10 wins. The last team to do that, guys, is 2019 LSU. So this team wouldn't even make the playoffs. That team is considered one of the best teams of all time. So it is what it is. You made your grave when he lost to a really bad Florida team, a team where, I mean, you almost got Arch Manning killed in that game. He tried to bail you out, but that offensive line was horrendous in that football game. Horrendous. So it is what it is. At this point, I'm not that angry about it. I would have been a little bit more angry if they put up a better fight versus Georgia, even though that game, I think to me, a lot of people saying it's a blowout. I don't think it was a blowout, but I also don't think it was a close game either. I think in all reality, if the game would have went like a normal game, they would have beat us like 30-20.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because when I was watching that game, and I think I said on your show last night that Kirby Smart just hates Texas, and I think there is something there. I think he just loves to just beat up on them because of the preseason rankings, and he always feels like because Georgia has, won multiple championships and they're kind of being treated as, well, we just expect it from you now, so we're not really going to praise you that much, which is true. You can ask any Georgia writer. That's kind of like we kind of forget. And it's really funny because ESPN, even something go, well, watch out for Georgia. Like there's some underrated program. Like, okay, well, I kind of get his anger there because Texas was praised throughout the offseason of being potentially one of the best teams in the country and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, Georgia is one of the better teams. That they can't rush the passer at all. But when he pulls out all the stops and he's got one of the better quarterbacks and an offense is humming right now, I get it. It's just I did expect a better team showing from Texas in that game, but at the same time, that's been their problem all year. Is that Arch Manning has begun to play better. I mean, look at his stats. He actually has a handful more yards than Marcel Reed passing right now. 23 touchdowns, and he 7 interceptions. Really, all those problems he had was really in the beginning of the season. And to be honest, as somebody who just loves football and loves watching guys, I like Arch Manning. Like just because I cover A&M, it's not like I have some hatred towards him. That's dumb. Yeah. As a journalist, that's really stupid. But at the same time, like I want him to succeed. I want to see him live up to that potential so that these type of games, especially on Friday night, really mean something and they're fun for everybody to watch. And they do show a player on the rise going into 2026. But really, I think the biggest issue for Texas outside of the secondary giving up too many big explosive plays has been the run game. And I mean, I'd love to ask you on this because I haven't gotten a clear answer from some of the Texas guys. I think you maybe can give me one. Why Sark can't run the ball this year? They have 2 really good running backs. I get the O-line hasn't been good in pass protection, but my thing is, and when I used to do scouting, I used to study O-line play a lot. Even the worst pass protecting lineman should be able to run block. It's more natural. it has really to do with leverage and strength and athleticism, and they got the guys to do it. It's just it's really astounding that they're, I think, 14th in the SEC right now. Only South Carolina and LSU are worse in running the ball, which, I mean, so what's the problem there?
I mean, that's a very, nuanced question because there's a lot of things that are an issue. Going into the season, I thought everyone was overrating the Texas running back room. I was saying that. I was begging for them to go get a transfer because I don't think Trey Wisner is the number one running back on a national championship team. I said that last year after the Mississippi State game, and Texas fans got very pissed off at me. They pointed to his stats and everything, but when you watch him, he's not super explosive. And CJ Baxter, who's supposed to be that guy, that knee injury, he's not the same, and he shouldn't be. That was a complete reconstruction of the knee. So I think those are the two biggest things. I don't think either of those guys, honestly, next year, if Texas is serious about winning a national championship, I think Trey Wisner is probably the third running back on the depth chart, honestly. So we'll have to see with that. But then the offensive line, the guards are just super slow foot. Like when you watch the Georgia game, it's crazy to me that Sark kept trying to pull these guards in certain situations to make it look like a run and passing scenarios because they couldn't get there. Every time they got there, they had to reach around the Georgia guy around his neck and his shoulder pad, and it was a hold. So it's like, why do you keep doing that when your guards are not athletic enough in space to do that? And then I thought personally the best rushing game of the year was Oklahoma, and that was the old Texas. They went back to outside zone. We really haven't done that since then. I don't know why. That's the thing. Sark does deserve some of this blame because he isn't calling it to the strengths of what this team are a lot of the times. He's calling it to what his scheme is. And his scheme does not marry with this personnel. It just doesn't. And I wish he would give up on his scheme a little bit more. He has a little bit. He's tweaked it a little bit. But even more, I think should be an 11 personnel team, no two tight ends, because there's no two tight ends that are worthy of stepping on the field right now for Texas. And if you're going to run it with spread out, I think that would help the offensive line too, instead of condensing the formation and trying to run the football. Get back to the basics inside and outside zone of what it was last year, and I think that would help out a little bit, but I don't even know if you have the running backs to do that. So I think it's just a whole mess, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that is something that in the offseason, whether they win, lose on Friday night, I mean, they have to clean that up. They have to go in the portal. It is hard to get O-linemen in the portal, especially guys you can trust, tackles specifically. A&M is probably going to have to deal with that too. They got a lot of guys going to the NFL on their vaunted offensive line. And it is kind of true, though. Like, Colin Klein, and we talked about it last night. I think I was asked about that. He is a stickler for running the ball. Like, he wants that 12 personnel. He wants those two tight ends on the field. He has devoted a lot of time into recruiting and dedicating a lot of the portal allocations to getting guys like Nate Berkacher, who came from Nebraska, really not showing a lot as a pass catcher, but is one of the smarter players, is an NFL tight end right now in terms of blocking. He's somebody who's going to make a roster alone just on run for a run heavy team. And right now it's just working perfectly in both zone and gap. I mean, this team is they've just played so many snaps together, and it's just crazy to me because I think in Sarkisian's scheme, it shouldn't look this bad. Even I get like he's doing what he did last year a lot, and I know they got back to like those quick passes and utilizing your athletes more, not forcing Arch Manning to drop back on every pass and scan the field and play like an NFL quarterback, which he's done a pretty good job of doing. Like, he's looked much better dropping back. We're actually going to get into that because I think the stats specifically compared to Marcel Reed right now, he's a little better in that aspect. And you actually asked me last night about one of the weaknesses they know. I don't know if I gave you a great answer. Well, I've got one now, and it has to do with Marcel Reed as a passer in certain areas of his game. But so we're we're going to go into talking about Texas defense right now. So it's really interesting because I do remember going back into the offseason, and we talked about every level of their defense being elite. They were returning probably the deepest cornerback room I had seen outside of maybe Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame maybe had a couple more guys that I would consider like future NFL guys. But I mean, the job they've done recruiting to get these guys and them staying in the program and not transferring if they weren't playing a lot last year. Obviously, Grayson Littleton has been fantastic as a freshman. He's looks like a future star. Trying to think of the other freshman corner.
Cade Phillips,
yeah, who A&M was on in recruiting as well. They really wanted him, but I really understand why he picked Texas, and he's a lot of playing time. He might start, I would think,
He'll
potentially on
probably
Friday.
start. He started last game, and when we get into this further, Jalen Gilbo is the eyesore of this Texas defense if he plays. So
Yeah.
you can keep going with your spiel, but that's the eyesore.
Yeah, and I mean they've got a lot of dudes. They've got a lot of, I mean, future talent, but guys who are performing right now. But at the same time, it's kind of interesting that Arkansas, which is funny to me, they had like 512 yards total in that game, and I think it's kind of cheap to criticize Texas defense for that game because A&M had the same problem. Like Arkansas, just for some reason, can't be stopped on offense. I don't get it. I still think that A&M kind of took the day off defensively. They couldn't rush the passer. They couldn't contain Taylon Green. I think the problem there, and I think that Arch Manning obviously had a fantastic game, but the defense was just allowing everything to happen. And it was kind of interesting because even running the ball, Texas's run defense, I think they're allowing like just over 90 yards per game on the ground. And I get that they have a lot of depth on their front, but Mike Washington, I think, is it Mike Washington for Arkansas?
Yeah.
I think he had like 110 rushing yards. He was bulldozing guys in the, in the second level of the field. I mean, it's not going to look like that on Friday. That was a weird thing to watch, but where's Texas defense struggled the most, and what's been the problem? Like, because I know throughout the first 3 or 4 games they looked very good. Like that was the strength of this team, especially when Arch was struggling. But it's kind of interesting since Arch has gotten better, the defense has really kind of not fallen off a cliff, but they've struggled in a lot of areas.
Yeah, so the second cornerback spot, which Cade Phillips made his first start versus Arkansas, I was impressed. I've been begging for that for 4 or 5 weeks because Jalen Gilbo is not good. We've been saying that literally since, I don't know, week 2, week 3 on our channel. Mm-hmm. Can we please try someone else other than Jalen Gilbo because he gets beat over the top way too consistently. He was getting beat over the top versus UTEP and San Jose State. The issue was they couldn't block our front, so the quarterback was overthrowing the wide receivers consistently. So you're like, oh, he got beat, but it didn't matter. Well, if you're smart enough to realize, guess what? Other teams that are better are going to block a little bit better, and they're going to be able to attack down the field, and that's what happened. So Cade Phillips, I think, will do a pretty good job in this game. It's going to be interesting because it's definitely a step up in competition. Arkansas has some okay wide receivers, but they don't have anything like Mario Craver or Casey Concepcion. Yeah. The number 2 thing is the tight end in the passing game. Ever since Mississippi State exploited it with Traore, over the middle has kind of been wide open for whoever the tight end is. I know you guys have the Swedish guy. I watched him versus Notre Dame a little bit. He caught yeah, he picked up a what was that? A really big 2-point conversion or touchdown versus Notre Dame.
That was no. So Berkacher caught the game-winning touchdown. Well, lead-taking touchdown. Theo's been a better receiver this year. He's been an even better blocker. Like he's gotten really accustomed to. I mean, again, this is a foreign player. This is somebody who has to learn football on the fly. But I wouldn't call him their best tight end receiver. I really would say Berkacher is their most consistent guy. I think he's going to be used in that area, especially in the middle of the field and seam. I think they're going to try to get him going early because I do think personally we can get in this. Someone's going to have to lock down Casey Concepcion. Mario Craver is coming off an injury, so he is ready to go. Mike Elko basically said, like, he's awesome. Like, I don't worry about those guys right now. But at the same time, Casey is playing out of his mind right now. He had a couple drops against South Carolina, played very well in this game. Ashton Bethel-Roman is another guy, which I do think, like you said, if that middle of the field is wide open, he's somebody who can really exploit any differential in speed. Like he's one of the fastest players on this team. I think he ran it's like a rumor 4.2. He really should have scored on like an 80-yard touchdown against South Carolina if the defender didn't kind of grab at his ankle and he dropped after that. But yeah, it is interesting to me because I look at Texas defense. I look at the linebacker rotation. Obviously, we can talk about Ty Anthony is going to be out for this game, which I think is a big deal. He's played very well this season. He was obviously an A&M commit. I know a lot about him. He's communicated with him during his recruiting process. So I think that could affect that in the first half. And like I've said, I think A&M is going to have to get out to a quick lead to have a shot in this game, because I do think that if they struggle in the first half and then they get all their defense back, and especially Anthony Hill's playing well, this could be a very low, ugly scoring game, especially if we're going to get into Marcel Reed, where I do think he could struggle. But yeah, kind of discuss more on like that weakness there.
Yeah, the middle of the field has been an issue with the tight end position. And then the last thing is tackling out in space on the perimeter can be inconsistent. I'm not going to call it bad, but at times it has been bad. The Florida game is the best or worst case example if you're a Texas fan of them not being able to tackle out in space when the ball's out to Dallas Wilson and he's breaking tackle and he's going for a touchdown. Other times it's better, but the only guy like I completely trust right now is Malik Muhammad. I think Malik Muhammad has been fantastic. He's ranked as a top 5 cornerback going into next year's NFL draft for a reason. He's played very well at Texas, so I trust him. Michael Taft, I don't know what has happened ever since the injury happened. He has not played well. He did not play well in the Georgia game. He was the lowest rated player according to PFF of the whole Texas team in the Georgia game, and then he was not very good in the Arkansas game. So he's got to figure something out. And then the other safety position, Jelani McDonald, again, inconsistent. I actually think this is the type of game where I want him, especially with Ty Anthony Smith out the first half, slide him down to the linebacker position because he's big enough, and then throw Jonah Williams or someone else out there at the safety position, maybe Derek Williams as well, because I think that room is actually pretty deep with talent. So we'll have to see, but that would be my solution to some of the issues Texas has.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jonah Williams, obviously another A&M guy. I mean, it's just funny how many recruiting battles these programs have had with each other. I'm so familiar with almost every player. But yeah, the fact that Taft isn't playing well right now, I think it does have to do with injury. I think he's probably just slowed down. It's kind of crazy how he has, I mean, I'm the same with you. I was looking at those grades the other day. I mean, those are not Michael Taft grades. I mean, he came back for a reason. He's one of the leaders on this defense. He's not playing like it right now, and that's really going to hinder this team. Obviously, last season, he had that very important interception against Marcel Reed that really kind of tilted the game towards the Longhorns' favor. So having him not playing well, I mean, that's good news for A&M's offense, obviously, because they don't have to worry about him. They just have to worry about a handful. I think Malik Muhammad is one of those names we're going to be watching. I will be talking about him later in the week. Like you're looking to attack the inconsistent players. I mean, that's basic football, but there are so many stars on this Longhorn defense that are going to play elevated because this game is very meaningful. And I think that a lot of them did play against Marcel Reed last year. They played against a similar offensive line. So there is a stat out there, and it is funny. You can look it up on PFF. Looking at where Marcel Reed has thrived this season, he's thrown 25 touchdowns this year, so 16 have come in play action. He's completing I think it's like 75% of his passes in play action, just one interception, 16 touchdowns. I think he's averaging nearly 12 yards per throw. But in dropback situations, he still has 9 touchdowns, but 7 of his 8 interceptions have come in dropback situations. He has just not been what you want him to be in those crucial situations when the defense is taking away play action opportunities and you're playing from behind. The fact that those numbers have not resulted in a loss this season has mainly been because A&M's run game has really found its footing. The Missouri win is a good example of that, where Reed wasn't having his best game to start. He finished with it was like an efficient 241 and 2 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick. But there were areas in his game where he's kind of tiptoeing and he's not really making decisive reads. And when he's dropping back, we all judge quarterbacks based on the drop back game because that's going to translate to the NFL. The difference between him and Arch Manning right now, and I said on the show last night, he made a throw against Arkansas, which was an NFL throw from the pocket. I think he drops back more. I didn't get to ask me that, but he drops back significantly more this season, I would think. That's funny you said Marcel Reed is great with play action. Arch is terrible with play action. That's another thing. It's hilarious. Like the difference there. And I was reading that I'm like, I guess that makes sense because of Sark's system. But that is Colin Klein's system. I mean, play action is a big part of it. It's not a way to cover up his ugly play. I mean, I know people want to say, I saw Texas fans saying that today. That's just the scheme. That's what they want. If Marcel couldn't play in that specific offense, if they were dropping back 70% of the time, he probably wouldn't be the quarterback. I'm going to be honest, if it was a completely different system, but because he's a dual threat, because he's great on the run and he is more decisive, especially having that type of speed at wide receiver now where guys are just running open all the time on play action, it makes perfect sense. But it is something to monitor, because if Texas can set the edge, obviously having a guy like Colin Simmons, who is now, we can talk about him all show. He's had a fantastic season outside of some boneheaded flags, but look, all those guys, Dalton Brooks, the A&M safety, was like that last year. A lot of personal foul calls and just stupid play, but he's been fantastic. He looks all like that 5-star prospect everybody was trying to go after in the, was it 24 class, no, 23 class? Yeah, I have to look back. But if that defense, especially if Anthony Hill's playing at a high level and they force Marcel Reed in the pocket each time, like, he's going to have to win with his arm and making those quick decisions. And granted, he's got the guys to do it, but I think that is Texas's chance to win this game, is that if you get into Marcel's head, just watch the South Carolina tape in the first half. The second half, he was Superman. Like, he was playing out of his mind. That was the best game I've ever seen him play. But in that first half, South Carolina contained both edges. He could not get around. He was having trouble scanning the field, and that results in a sack fumble and a touchdown, 2 interceptions that could have been 6. I think that's really the plan for Texas for this game. But at the same time, your defense is going to have to step up, and you're going to have to hope that A&M's offensive line just has a bad game.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because right after you left our show last night, I mentioned to our co-host, or my co-host, that Texas and Texas A&M are number 1 and then 3 in sacks in the nation.
I think they have 39.
We have 37. Yeah, Oklahoma's right in between us, which is funny. And I think Texas, might be the best front four A&M's played all year. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I agree with that. So I 100% agree with that, because you look at their schedule and it's the same with, and it's kind of the same with offenses. I was looking at the stats today. A&M has not played. They've only played 2 of the top offenses this year in, I think it's Notre Dame and Arkansas. So again, this is why this game is so massive. So I'm glad we're covering this, because I think a lot of people are just looking at the record, and they're looking at Texas lost to Georgia, and they're looking at A&M at 11-0, and outside of those who are just saying A&M's schedules is overrated. I can agree with them in some ways. Like, they haven't faced consistent challenges offensively, but yeah, I'm sorry, to get back to your point there.
No, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, in Notre Dame defensively, at the beginning of the year, isn't the same team what they are now. I personally think like Notre Dame, the way they're playing right now, with my eyes, I think they're a top 3 team in the country.
Dominant,
they look so damn good right now.
Dominant.
So I think this might even be, I know our defense have some issues, but defensively, we might just be the best overall defense they played up to this point too.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're talking about defense. My head was on offense, but I do agree with that. Looking back at like LSU secondary was one of the better units there. Their pass rush was terrible. I wouldn't really call them a great defense. They were playing against a lot of NFL talent. The thing about that game was A&M's physicality just kind of broke them down at the end. Marcel used his legs a lot. Like, he had a couple big passes. He also threw 2 interceptions that game. So that's my point, is that even against good defenses, Reed has struggled in the first half. Elko adjusting defensively and Colin Klein getting him more comfortable, getting him back to those easy buttons has worked a lot. The difference here is, I think, Texas, because this rivalry is going to be so heated, they are playing in DKR. They're at home. This is the first game since 2010 in this rivalry. I don't know if you get behind early, and if they do contain Reed, it's going to be tough to come back in this one. I get they've had these comebacks. He struggled early. He's really just set the tone in the second half, but Reed is one of those high variance quarterbacks that I keep talking about in the NFL all the time. Jordan Love is my best example of that in the NFL. He's the highest of high variance quarterbacks. Reed right now is playing at a very high level consistently, but he can turn into that guy. We saw that against Texas last year, against a better Texas defense, more veteran Texas defense. And I know I've been the one saying it. He didn't have the weapons he has now on offense. They didn't have the run game they have now. But at the same time, this is, I would say, probably a similar defensive scheme to what they did last year. I mean, so it could cause some problems. And I am worried about that. Like, I've seen a lot of Aggies and a lot of people are a little too confident going, like, we're going to come in there and steamroll them. I'm like, okay, well, you obviously haven't watched Texas this year. You watched maybe a handful of games, but they can cause chaos to quarterbacks, get into your head. And again, like I've said, talent matters. Like when you have talent at all three levels, especially if Anthony Hill is healthy enough to play, he's a game changer. Like that's why when A&M lost him, they have Torrin York, which we can talk about in a couple of minutes here. And Torrin York has been playing some of his best football, probably the best football he's played for Texas A&M in his career. But I would say Anthony Hill is still a more talented player. That's why he was the 5-star prospect. That's what he's looked at as a potential first-round pick in the future. And so it's going to be up to this team, like I said, to if you establish the run early and you find those holes which they can't cover up late in the game. Yeah, I think A&M's going to win this game. We'll do predictions at the end of the show, but I agree with you. I think this is the best unit they play. I think this is the best unit on all three levels they played. And so it's going to be challenging, but this is really a big game for Colin Klein because I think he's had his moments where when you beat an LSU in Baton Rouge, you got to factor in all the Brian Kelly nonsense, all this team maybe not really playing 100% for him. You got to look at like Missouri right now, where they were playing with a third-string quarterback at that time. Okay, the kid just couldn't complete a pass in that game. You had a lot of easy routes, and I understand that Missouri was a ranked team and it was on the road, but that was a one-dimensional offense you were playing. That was a defense that you could figure out pretty quickly because they were just a pressure defense. You could exploit their secondary, which they did. But I agree with you. This is a defense that I think they're going to play much better than they did against Arkansas. It was a high-scoring game. I think that was kind of just one of those random ones like A&M had against Arkansas. But I agree. It's the best unit they're going to play all season.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back. Like, I forgot to do this, but in the Arkansas game for Texas, that game was over when it's 52-23. Like, Texas emptied the bench. Sark even said that. So I don't know how many, like, garbage yards they put up at the end of that game. Jackson threw for a bunch of yards in the fourth quarter. So probably 150 of those were just pure Texas was willing to give them up. So, I'm not saying they played great in that game, but Arkansas scored 30 points on everyone not named LSU or Notre Dame. So, their offenses, I've never seen it. I said this last night. I've never seen a team to where they just had an average defense. That team's probably an 8 or 9 win football team.
Which is crazy because we had an Arkansas guy on our show who we were talking about that, like who deserves the job. I was like, give it to Bobby Petrino. Like, give it to Petrino. He's paid his dues. He's coached at crappy places. He's taken these OC jobs. He had to work under Jimbo Fisher, for God's sakes. Like, he's been punished enough. So it's like, just give him that opportunity. He'll build a good staff, and he just needs to fix the damn defense. And Arkansas is going to be a fun team to watch. It is disappointing because it would help Texas A&M and Texas, strength of schedule if Arkansas was a good team, if they were a decent team. But because they're a 2-win team and you have these games, everybody's going to look back at them, which they're doing with A&M still, of, well, you won 45-42. Well, you only won 52-37. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You just have to get out because Taylor Green is a special player. They got a lot of physical wide receivers. They got a physical run game. They always have a pretty decent offensive line. They just had a crap-ass defense that's never gotten better. It's never been really consistent at all under any regime. So it is one of those things where I don't look at that game for Texas and go into this week so confident that A&M's just going to go in there and control the game and not turn the ball over. And it makes zero sense because we're going to get into the history of this rivalry. Going back, so I kind of revealed my age. I'm 31, so I've been watching this rivalry for a very long time, and this is the most meaningful game. It's kind of crazy because for the first 2 years, back to back, these have been meaningful games for both programs, which is nuts because I look back, I think it's the late aughts. It's like 2000. It was when Stephen McGee was at quarterback, and I know they beat A&M. I think it was like 13-0, or Texas. A&M beat Texas 13-0 one of those games, and I think they beat them the year after. But and I believe Texas was a top 25, maybe top 15 ranked team at that time. But at the same time, like, it didn't mean anything. Like, it really didn't. It was just a rivalry game. It was just for pride for A&M. But honestly, everything is on the line for both programs in this game. I mean, A&M, they win this, they're going to the SEC championship for the first time in program history. They'll finish 12-0 for, I believe it's the first time in program history, based on some of the things that happened in the 90s. And for Texas, again, like if they can win this game and they can hope that Alabama loses, maybe Georgia trips up against Georgia Tech, like we just never know that could easily happen, especially after Georgia Tech lost the way they did last weekend. Texas could be in the conversation. Like there's so much meaning here. This is not one of those games where Texas is just going to enter talking about pride. You heard Sarkisian this week. Like he's not ready to talk about the offseason or a pointless bowl game. He says, look, you go into these weeks because anything can happen. We have no idea. College football is crazy. That's why we all love it. And we've seen in rivalry games in the past, like even the worst team can pull off the upset because they have true hatred for one another. So yeah, it's crazy. I got to ask, like, what's your earliest memory of this rivalry? Because mine, I have to think back. Like it's probably the one I really remember is probably Stephen McGee's game. I think it was 09 where they beat them, but that's really my earliest. But I do remember like the Gerard Johnson game where they almost came back. I think it was like, I think they scored like 39 points in that game. There's a lot of weird ones, especially during the Colt McCoy days. But what's your earliest memory of this rivalry?
My earliest one is probably the 05 game because Vince Young gave that speech like before the game, and A&M's crowd is going crazy above top, and they go out and win that game. And obviously, we know what that team goes on to do. And then obviously Case McCoy winning. I mean, it's crazy that you look back and Case McCoy beats A&M and Oklahoma both times. He probably shouldn't have won either game, but he did. That dude, by the way, he's not talented at all, honestly, but he's a gamer. Like he's a tough guy. Like he got beat up a crap ton with those Texas teams, but beat the rivals when you needed him to beat them. So he did his job, and it's just funny looking back at him being able to beat the two biggest rivals Texas has.
Being that I am 31 years old, I do remember that game. My dad actually went to the bonfire game when A&M won, which was obviously one of the more passionate wins in A&M history. But the 2010, the last one in DKR, Cyrus Gray running for that freaking long time. I mean, one of the most underutilized running backs in Texas A&M history. I was talking to my co-host about that. I'm still mad about it. I'm like, they didn't even use him correctly. He could have had a long NFL career, he just had injuries. But, I mean, one of the fastest players they've ever had. Ryan Tannehill, that story going into that season was just kind of crazy, being a wide receiver turned to a quarterback. Just a lot. But, again, it's just funny because A&M never crossed the threshold of being a contender in any of those years. Like, because after when the Johnny Manziel years, this rivalry was gone. It was dead. I mean, we didn't even know he was going to come back until – the rumors came with Texas joining the SEC. So, and to be honest, what's crazy too is even going into next year, this game could potentially matter like this again. It could have this type of meaning based on both teams' schedules. And I mean, we're not going to talk about it yet because we have a lot going on after this. We're not going to go into off season yet, but it's good. It's just good for the brand. It's good for the SEC. It's good for college football because it is true that it's weird for Aggie fans to be here right now. They haven't been 11-0 since 1992. I mean, a lot of Aggie fans weren't even born yet. And it's just a weird situation because usually, and especially going to last year, you're fighting for your lives. Like they were 8-3 going into this game. They were not playing well. They had lost a really close 4 overtime game to Auburn in a game where actually Theo Malin Ostrom dropped a pass that really ended the game. Resulted in that loss, and just didn't have the confidence, didn't have the team that they have now. The culture wasn't built yet. It wasn't where it's at now. Mike Elko was right to say that, and to be honest, I give complete credit to Steve Sarkisian through all the rumor mills and everything going on, even some of the fan base trashing him and not backing him. He's kept this team playing competitive football coming up to this point. So I give him complete kudos there. Because the reason Mike Elko is not getting any flack is because they're undefeated. But I'll tell you this, as someone who covers this team professionally and has for the past 4 seasons, going into the 24 offseason, we didn't know if Mike Elko would be the long-term solution. There was a lot of disdain for the way they finished, losing to Texas in a game which they had chances to score touchdowns. Couldn't even sniff the end zone in that game where Quinn Ewers was basically giving the game away on a silver platter. Yeah. They couldn't take advantage of it. Texas ended up having a pretty good run in the CFP while they're playing in the Las Vegas Bowl and end their season against a U.S. Jordan Maeva, Maeva, whatever his name is, for USC, their quarterback, who wasn't even the starter then. He was like a third stringer at that point, and he ended their season with a comeback fourth quarter, just shredding A&M secondary. And going into the offseason, there was zero hope going to this program. I talk about it all the time. So it's just insane that we're where we're at right now. But I'll say this, I love where things are lining up for this game. I haven't been more excited for the Lone Star Showdown in years. I mean, going back last year, I did not pick A&M to win that game. I was actually shocked they even scored in that game, to be honest with you. But this is going to be very, very exciting. So we will get to the prediction portion right now. And like I said yesterday, I think I said like 28-24. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I think this is going to be the best defense we see from Texas all season. I think they're going to show up. I think that guys like Colin Simmons, who obviously we talked about briefly, is going to potentially be a game wrecker if they kind of move him around. I don't think he's going to have like success against Trey Zune. He's been one of the best pass blockers, probably I think the best pass blocker per PFF this season. But Armaj Reed Adams, who actually spoke today, called you guys cowards for
I saw that.
for celebrating in the middle of the field, which that's his opinion. He did give up 6 sacks against Notre Dame, or 6 pressures. I mean, against 6 sacks, 6 pressures against Notre Dame. So he has struggled in some areas, especially against elite talent. If they move him around and they can get pressure early and get Marcel Reed off kilter and just get in his head, that's the thing. You get into Marcel Reed's head early, you can cause a lot of mistakes, and you can end up taking advantage of those, especially the way Arch Manning is playing. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm still going to pick A&M to win this game just because I do believe they have a lot of momentum in their favor. I think that Texas maybe, because of how important this game is, where, especially I'll say this, if some dominoes drop and actually, I shouldn't say that because there's no games on Friday. Yeah, I need to backtrack that. There's no games on Friday that have
2 other games. 2 or 3. So the only game of importance to like the Texas, 2 actually, Texas playoff hopes, Ole Miss and Mississippi State play. Mississippi State beats Ole Miss. I think you can make a case too because Ole Miss doesn't have many great wins. Maybe you put them in there, especially with the Lane Kiffin stuff going on. Like if he leaves, I think you should take that into consideration. And then I do believe Utah and Kansas play that night too. So that is kind of, in the playoffs.
I am right. Yeah, I did think one of those 2. Yeah, I just knew I knew Alabama. I know that game is on Saturday. Yeah, I know most of them are on Saturday. So yeah, if 2 dominoes drop, if those 2 teams lose, and that is going to obviously have a great effect on their playoff chances, maybe that gets in their head. Maybe they're thinking ahead. Maybe they're thinking, well, maybe we do have a shot. And we do know that if you're not playing free and you're not playing focused on the game at hand, you're looking ahead, which has been a thing that we've talked about all season with A&M when they were playing South Carolina the way they did. We thought we were looking ahead to Texas. Maybe they were, but it can really disrupt any of your consistency. And it's really going to be a game, I think, that we're going to judge Arch Manning even more because this is the brightest of lights. This is against an 11-0 team. This is against a Texas A&M defense that has been praised all season. I do think that it's fair to say that they've been overrated in some aspects because of the opponents they played and some of the offenses they played. But at the same time, you just got to throw everything out the window with this one. I just think it's just going to be a ugly, physical game. There might be a couple fights in the middle. I can totally see that. I think these teams really hate each other, especially this current roster. But I'm going to lower my score. I'm going to say 24-20 A&M. I just think it's going to be a grinded out. I think they're going to maybe get a couple big runs to seal it at the end. I'll say this though, if they have to rely on field goals in this game, I pick Texas to win that game. Their field goal issues right now are really bad. Randy Bond, their senior, did not even attempt a field goal against Samford. Jared Zirkle, who's a Georgia transfer, he went 2 for 3, missed a chippy, and hit a 39, I think like a 28-yarder. So, and if you ask Mike Elko right now, he'll probably ignore that question. He does not want to talk about it. He's hoping that his offense can just score touchdowns and not have to rely on the kicking game. But that's not a problem with Texas. So.
Yeah, Mason Shipley's been pretty good, basically 45 yards and in. He's been fine. It's anything above that, I think there's some questions there. But, yeah, I picked Texas to win 29-26. I think it's just going to be a really fun, competitive game that's going to be within one score either way. Arch Manning, if they didn't have the drops in the Georgia game, this could be the game where he's going for his fifth game of over 300 yards in a row. I think he's really turned a corner. He's played very well. That's my biggest issue is like the drops. We just got to stop dropping the football. I mean, we had 5 or 6 versus Georgia, one of them to Ryan Wingo on the first drive, where if he catches the ball, that's a first down. Texas probably goes in and scores on the opening drive, probably change the game a little bit. I still think Georgia wins the football game, but I mean, that's his issue. It's so weird to me. He makes what play or later in that game where he's extending all the way up in between 2 defenders and brings it down, makes a couple plays versus Arkansas, doesn't drop any pass in the Arkansas game. So he's put together his best 6 quarters of football at Texas. Emmett Mosley, in my opinion, is like the most underrated wide receiver on our team. I think he does everything well. I think he's a really good player, and we're going to have him for a couple more years because he transferred after his freshman season from Stanford. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in this game and going forward. And then Parker Livingston is kind of, he's been a roller coaster because he opened the season really, really well. I think 2 to 3 games, he had 4 or 5 touchdowns. Then it's kind of gone downhill. And then you see the last couple of games start to go up again. So it's going to be interesting. DeAndre Moore, honestly, has been kind of a non-factor. Other than the game versus Arkansas, he had 1 touchdown the whole year. Be interesting if he's starting to come on. But it's going to be on Arch Manning. And, Brooks Austin, the Film Guy Network, I think does a great job. And he's talked about, in his opinion, over his 4 years, Gunnar Stockton, Riley Leonard, and Arch Manning are the 3 toughest quarterbacks he's watched film on. And I agree. Arch is tough, man. He gets his ass kicked behind a really, average offensive line, and he gets back up. He's willing to take hits. He likes taking hits a lot. Mm-hmm. He talks about that. That gets him into rhythm. The first couple hits he takes, it gets him fired up. So we're lucky we have this offensive line with Arch Manning and not this offensive line with Quinn Ewers, because Quinn Ewers would have died behind this offensive line. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah, I think we do win this game, but I think it's going to be a really, really good football game.
I think it's a coin flip. I honestly agree with you. That's the thing. We're releasing our predictions on Thursday morning, but I'm kind of going back and forth, and after really looking at all the situations that could happen and where A&M has struggled, especially against big plays. I think I have to look it up, but I think let's get this stat here. But it's explosive plays. So it's kind of interesting when you look at when you compare statistics side by side. A&M actually they're ranked 79th in explosive plays on defense allowed. So they've had an issue there. It hasn't been game changing to the point where it's ruined any game. And obviously they're 11-0, so it hasn't resulted in a loss. Texas is a little better. I think they're ranked 66, so it's not perfect, but they're in that same ballpark. Third down is going to be huge in this game. It's going to be massive in this game. Texas A&M's third down defense is that's as good as I've seen. Going back to the 21 season when Elko was A&M's defensive coordinator, Bryce Young during with that Alabama game. I mean, that was a master class in defensive coaching. I mean, they caused that kid so many problems. I mean, it was chaotic. I mean, they were sending blitzers left and right from areas. I had to watch the film. I was like, what kind of defense? I don't even know what this defense is. And they had a long article about him. It's like an NFL scheme that's not used a lot because you have to have certain type of athletes in it. So he's a mastermind in that area. And that's really what's going to determine this game, I think, because Arch has not been good, and correct me if I'm wrong, he hasn't been great under pressure at all. He's not one of those quarterbacks that really completes a high percentage of his passes under pressure.
He's good when he's blitzed, but he's not good if you're getting home with 4. No. When he knows the blitz is coming, he's pretty good though.
He's pretty good against the blitz, yeah. So which is good. He can learn from Dak Prescott in that. Obviously, I think you just watch Dak Prescott's film. How those guys do that is just insane. I mean, you have to know your read and you have to trust your offense. But yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if this is going to be squarely on the feet of Arch Manning and Marcel Reed to win this game. Like I said, if A&M can find their run game, which is going to be tough. Obviously, Texas is going to try to stop the run early because Colin Klein, I can tell you the first play is going to be a run. It's probably going to be a stretch run, or they're going to try to set up some zone look. But if it's going to fall on Marcel Reed to make plays, I think you're going to see a lot of runs and you're going to see him exploiting holes immediately. I think they're going to tell him, go, just take it. I was watching the NFL last night. Bryce Young, I mean, that's kind of funny. We're bringing him up again. He's rolling out. He's got a lineman right in front of him, and he chooses to throw it, turning into an interception where all he has to say is go, go, go. He can take on that defensive lineman and score a touchdown. That's going to be where Marcel Reed's head needs to be. He cannot He cannot hesitate. He can't double clutch. Double clutching has been a big problem for him this season. Going back to the Mississippi State game, I don't think he threw any interceptions, but he was overthrowing balls. He was overthrowing like easy passes in the middle of the field. But if he's confident and he's in rhythm, he can tear you apart. And I think that the secondary allows too many big plays early. Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are so tough to cover. I mean, I don't care who you are right now. I respect Texas's cornerback room, so it's no slight against them. But I don't know how. I mean, there was Mario Craver had like 200 plus yards against Notre Dame. He was going against their best corner the entire game. So it was just, and he couldn't handle him. So that type of quickness, and I know Texas fans probably look back and wish they had done a better job recruiting Casey Concepcion, because one of my co-hosts here, Cannon Torres, he's one of the better recruiting guys and pays a lot of attention to the transfer portal. He's been wanting him for the 2 years. And I was like, what's funny though, is that I don't think anybody else was talking about him. It was really just A&M. I really thought Texas was going to be in the market for that, but it's the same thing. A&M has missed out on transfer portal players that have done well. So it's just how it is. But I agree with you. This is a coin flip. This is going to be hard, but man, I'm going to be honest. I think you and I are going to have a fun time watching this. I think we're going to have a fun time talking about whatever happens after. I think for A&M fans, and I said this on your show last night, do not trust the selection committee if you lose this game. Like, don't trust them, because they've already said enough of, taking Indiana and Ohio State, even if A&M sustains one loss that is, like, as I've heard, meaningless to their CFP hopes, which it is. Like, they're going to be a CFP team. But how high are you going to get a quarterfinal bye? Are you going to have to play an early home game and then you're just going to have a tougher matchup in the next round? I don't know. I think that if they don't put together their best effort in this game and show they're one of the best teams in the country, I could easily see them drop in 5 through 8, or probably not lower, but in the 5 through 8. So yeah, it's going to be crazy, but I'm glad we could catch up and really preview this game. I would like to ask you though, who is going to be the wide receiver, the number one guy that Arch is going to target in this game? Because that is going to be interesting. I don't think we touched on that. Will Lee and Des Ricks, obviously A&M's two outside starting corners. Des has been covering the number one guy throughout the season. Will was starting to do that. He's now relegated to the number 2 guy. Tyreek Chappell's in the slot. He's somebody, I don't worry about him in this game because I think their outside receivers are going to be the ones making the big plays. Do you think it's going to be Ryan Wingo? Do you think that this is potentially a Parker Livingston type game because of maybe the mismatch there?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think it will be Ryan Wingo. Like, I think he'll get the most targets. He kind of has been that guy ever since the Mississippi State game. I think he's had a couple back-to-back, like 150-plus-yard games in there, and then he had a pretty good game versus Arkansas, pretty good game versus Georgia, minus the drops. So I do think he'll get the majority of the targets. And then, yeah, it's going to be a coin toss between Emmett Mosley or Parker Livingstone to me. Who else gets the, second and third targets? Yeah. Emmett Mosley is kind of the guy on third down, and then Parker Livingston is kind of the guy going down the field. That's kind of the vibe I get there. So different scenarios call for different wide receivers, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I can see him probably taking. I think they're going to take a couple of deep shots early. To be honest, I'm Sarkisian. I would take a couple of deep shots early, especially if your run game just dies again, because they are susceptible to big plays. As you know, you can always get those holding calls. It's actually very easy to get those pass interference calls now because those guys are always hand fighting, and if the corner's pulling a little bit, they're going to call PI. So it is what it is. But I can see them being pretty aggressive, and I don't blame them. I mean, this is a rivalry game. This is such an important game. You got to do everything in your power, and you got to pull out every type of play you can think of that could be successful in this defense to get the job done. So thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it, man, for being here. We had fun last night as well. Your show's awesome. You guys do a great job there. So where can people find you?
Yeah, just if you want to follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that's it right there, MatthewMS97. And then Texas Voice of College Football, where you can find our content. I think our other co-hosts are going live tonight at Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. They'll talk about some other stuff that we didn't get to hit on yesterday. Probably talk about the selection committee and where they decide to put Texas. My guess is going to be about 15th in the country.
I think 15, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to see about that because I do think that matters coming into this week. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right, man. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna do some of the betting stuff and sign up for the people. But I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll catch up though. We'll be discussing whatever happens after Friday. It's it could have major implications for both these programs. So
100%.
Yeah.
See you.
All right, I'll see you, man. All right, guys. So as you can see there, Matthew obviously did a fantastic job, did his show last night. So make sure to check out, even if you are an A&M fan, look, they do a lot of good content with Texas, do a fantastic job covering that program. Obviously, they're a very interesting program, especially where they're going right now. Potentially, probably not to the College Football Playoff, but, good future, right? Arch Manning's playing at a high level, so I think they'll probably be a pretty good team, which is good for A&M. You always want your rival to challenge you at the end of the season. You want these games to be good. At least I do. I don't want blowouts. I want A&M to be challenged. I want them to look like the team we expect them to be going into the playoff. So he did a good job and a fantastic job as usual. So this game, I think, according to our partners at Underdog, A&M is I think it's like a 2.5 point favorite right now, which is kind of crazy to me because I would have thought that maybe the way Texas played against Arkansas, putting up 52 points, I get they allowed 37 points and their defense, gave up over 500 yards. I mean, I get it. It's just one of those games. A&M had that type of game like we talked about tonight against Arkansas, winning 45-42. So you can't really judge. It's just one of those games against a really good offense. But yeah, if you guys want to partake in this, you can always use code on Underdog. Use code VOC, so Voice College Football VOC at VOCF be Aggies on Underdog. You can play $5 and get $50 once you make your first bet. That's always the guarantee we give you guys here. Again, this is a game I might stay away from it. It's the line makes sense. I think both of us predicted it's going to be a very close game potentially. I don't see this being, either team blowing each other out. I just don't see that happening. It hasn't happened in the rivalry in a long time either way. So it's not the type of game where I, be afraid to, bet, just pay attention to the betting line and go with that. But yeah, I don't need to tell you. But anyways, you must be 21 years or older to play. If you have a gambling problem, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. So I'll say this. It's coming to the point where A&M really does need to win out. I do think that if they lose to Texas on Friday night, obviously they don't go to the SEC championship game, so they're just going to be at home waiting to see where they end up in the college football playoff rankings, at the final rankings after championship Saturday. But I really think if Ohio State and Indiana end up finishing strong, one team sustains a loss in the championship game, I don't think they're going to I don't think that's going to hurt either of those programs much, but I do think this will hurt A&M based on what I've seen and based on the comments I've read and covered from the committee over the past 2 weeks. I think they favor Indiana's wins, and I think they favor their schedule for some reason. I think that this narrative that A&M has played the bottom 8 teams in the SEC, which is true, but they didn't know that going into the season. They didn't know LSU was going to be a average team. They didn't know that Arkansas's defense was going to be as bad as it is. They didn't know that Missouri was going to lose their starting quarterback. You just have to play the teams in front of you. So I think it's a kind of a dumb narrative, but at the same time, that's just what it is. So I think the focus obviously is you need to win this game. You need to show that you are the number 3 or higher team in the country, and you have to perform like it on both sides of the ball. And that's going to mean, and we talked about it tonight, that Marcel Reed is going to have his best game of probably the best game of his career. And he did that a couple weeks ago against South Carolina, passed for a career high 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, had those 2 first half interceptions, but he came back and showed this is why he earned that job in the offseason. This is why this team trusts him so much, and they trust him as a leader as well. I mean, they have strengths on at every position. Like, this is a complete team overall, and it's really hard to ignore that. But at the same time, I agree with Matthew. This is probably the best team. Well, no, probably not the best team. Best defense A&M has faced this season, and you are playing on the road. So it's going to be a challenge. But look, I believe in this team. I've been covering this team all season. I trust them. I trust the coaching staff. One of the reasons Elko received that extension was because of this culture that's been building here. You see it through recruiting. You see it in the transfer portal. You see it in the unity in the locker room. And you saw it completely against South Carolina, being down 27 points, coming all the way back to win that game. That's a culture win, like Mike Uggo said. That we've been building towards this back in the winter. So, this team's, they're ready for the challenge. If they come out with a win, I wouldn't be surprised. If they come out with a loss, we'll be talking about that for the next 2 weeks and really wondering just how far they'll fall in the CFP. But you hope they win this game, and you hope that we don't have to worry about that. So, as always, you can follow me at Cameron Honesty on X. You can follow all my work at Aggies Wire, part of USA Today Sports. And as the lead writer there, you can my two writers, Jared Johnson, Dylan Flipper, do a fantastic job. We're putting a lot of good content this week leading up to the game on Friday. My co-host, Cannon Torres, will be back for our next episode, likely on Saturday after the game. We'll probably do a post-game for the Lone Star Showdown. And then we will be back as usual on Tuesday night at either 3:30 or 7, depends on the time, whatever time we're available. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope you like this show. I know being alone for the first time is a little weird. Not having my co-host here kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but I think we got through it. And again, thanks to Matthew. He did a fantastic job. Very excited for this game. And as always, gig 'em. And we can't wait. It's going to be fun, man. I just love the Lone Star Showdown is back for the second consecutive year, and in my opinion, it's the best college football game of the year. So have fun, stay safe this weekend, and we'll see you again on Saturday.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click Join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.